You are listening to the Food Means Business podcast, which features the personal stories and secret ingredients behind what it's like to abandon your day job to start a CPG food and beverage business. I'm Janaba Johnson-Jones, former marketing executive turned entrepreneur and founder of food business incubator Hudson Kitchen. Join our community of fellow food business owners and subject matter experts to learn and laugh with us as we explore a startup world that's a little more culinary and a lot less corporate these days. Hi, Gabby. Welcome to the Food Means Business podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to chat.
Me too. So I'd love for you to start with your story. Tell us about your leap from corporate to entrepreneurship.
Yeah, so I'm originally from LA, and then I went to Boston College for undergrad. While I was at Boston College, I was kind of obsessed with bartending and cocktail making. So I became a bartender. And fast forward, I graduated from Boston College, moved to New York City, and went into the corporate world doing events for pharmaceutical companies like Pfizer, Abbott, AbbVie, like those big companies where I was building conferences and just traveling a lot, executing those large operations. And it was really fun and very fast paced, and I enjoyed it. But, I quickly learned that to climb a ladder, it takes a lot of time. And so as we all know in that kind of bureaucracy of corporations. But fast forward, COVID hit, and I was 3 years into the corporate world, and I got laid off. And so it was my time to kind of think about, what I wanted to do for my career. And obviously a lot of us were having a lot of revelations during that time, and a lot of hoping for a positive outcome for our family and friends. But it was also my time to kind of revert back to my hobbies of cocktail making and really kind of figuring out how I could turn cocktail making into a hobby. And so at the very seed of it all, I thought, I'm going to bottle or can this margarita and sell it. And little did I know how complicated it was, but I became obsessed with doing that. And as a lot of us entrepreneurs have the same mentality, it's once you get fixed on something, you can't stop. And so that was
Yep.
sort of my mindset in going into it. And I became obsessed and I couldn't stop.
Let's talk about what you did first. So obviously you had the recipe that you could start with, right?
Yes, yes.
So what happened next? Because I have to imagine, and coming while love to make cocktails, that you weren't in the beverage business. And
Right.
so how did you figure out like what to do first?
Yeah. So I knew that I wanted something that was as health forward as possible. I wanted something that was inspired by the female preferences. So I knew that foundation, and I understood that I wanted to create something that was organic, natural. And then I guess the next step was finding a formulator. So there's people out there called food scientists,
Yeah.
and they're awesome. I'm sure you've worked with some of them. And it was one of the most fun parts of the actual formulation was actually building the formulas, and then obviously sourcing the tequila down in Mexico. And so we knew that we wanted it to be organic based and 100% de agave, which is premium tequila. And so that was kind of our foundation of figuring out the next step. But it was kind of this building of a formula and this small formula, but then also the larger formula of the entire company itself. So it was just kind of step by step and getting in contact with everyone in the industry, as many people as possible that I could kind of get advice from, and going
Mhm.
from there.
It sounds like getting something from, like having a distillery in Mexico sounds complicated.
Oh, yes. Yeah. And I don't have my own distillery. Like that's I think I would have to be down there to have that, or have a lot of money to own one. But a lot of people don't know the legality behind tequila, but it's very similar to champagne in that in order
Mm,
it for a tequila to be called tequila, it has to be produced in one region in the entire world. So same as champagne.
wow.
So a lot of the people that own distilleries, it's like family owned, family run, and that's exactly what the distillery that I source my tequila from is. But it's definitely a full-time job to have like your distillery and make sure that it's aligned with the standards of the entity that controls those legal requirements down in Mexico. So it's really complicated and I had no idea going into it, but it obviously adds to the beauty of the brand and the company itself.
It's true. It's so true. And also, as you mentioned, like you couldn't stop thinking about it. You had to
Right,
keep going and keep doing it. So like you had no choice but to keep going. So that's really fantastic. So tell me, so
right.
from idea to actually launching the product, how long did it take you?
So I thought of it in like May, but obviously you have to get your ducks in a row. May of 2020. And then it was just one thing after another. But from the forming of the company, October 2020 to launch was September 2021. So, like 11 months, almost a year.
Okay.
And yeah, and I think with tequila or a product like an alcoholic beverage, it's a lot of licensing and
Hmm.
obviously during COVID, well, that was in the height of COVID, it was a lot of restrictions on supply and things like that. So it's probably the worst time to do something like that. But we did it. But yeah, I think it takes a long time to just to get something off the ground for sure.
I mean, honestly, like 11 months doesn't sound like that
Right.
long, right?
Yeah.
And the time's gonna pass anyway, so you might as well like work on something that you love doing,
Right, and
right?
that's the most fun part of it is building something and seeing it really create and then one day you're like, "Crap, it's on the shelf." It's the
It
weirdest
is.
thing, and I'm sure you understand, it's just crazy to have something in your mind and then all of a sudden it's it feels like all of a sudden it's there.
Right,
It still kinda hits you
right.
every day.
It's it's definitely worth the time to just see that thing come to fruition. That's
Yes.
amazing.
Oh, absolutely. And then you when you have those bumps in the road, you think back at those months of discovery and where, the heart of it all came from.
Yeah. So you said "we" a couple of times. Do you have a team that you work with?
Yes. So I have a group of people that have been there with me from the beginning. And I have a lot of mentors and supporters. And those people have been, my confidants. And a lot of those people are my family members, but they don't help out with the business. 'Cause I think that would be a little bit messy. But no, people in the industry that have guided me from the beginning and helped me make decisions and actually bring the product to life.
So tell me, like, how did you find these people? Because
Yeah.
it's been interesting for me being in business, and I kind of reached out to people I didn't know, and they responded.
Yes.
So I'm wondering, like, what your experience has been.
Yes. I always say you never know who you're going to meet. And I think that's the beauty of saying yes to everything. I mean, there's all these entrepreneur blogs and every one thing that's in every single one of them, it says say yes to everything in the first year. So I
Right,
think if you reach out cold to people, you're 90% are gonna not respond, but but the ones that do are the ones that actually care and want to listen to
right,
you. And so,
right,
yes, that is exactly how I have found people to, be on my board and invest is besides my family members is just reaching out and
right.
asking for advice. And so that's exactly how it happened. And it's crazy, but it is the reality in this kind of startup world.
Yeah, it's definitely. So can you talk a little bit about the products themselves? Like, I know you launched with 2 flavors, so let's talk about how you came up with those,
Yes.
and decided on those, like, flavors.
Yes. So a lot of the inspiration was honestly from the food scientist, and she, kind of swayed us in the right direction and what we wanted to formulate. But the first flavor is our classic skinny lime margarita, and that is just kind of obviously the classic margarita that we knew we wanted to bring to market. Then it's 110 calories, all natural ingredients and organic ingredients. And it's really what separates us apart from our competitors is that it's 7 ingredients that you know what they are, right? So it's like it's tequila, it's carbonated water, it's natural flavorings, organic juice, and agave syrup. And so both of the flavors, so that's our lime margarita, and then the strawberry basil is our second flavor. So we just have those two flavors, and it's pretty much the same formula except for the flavorings a little bit different and the juices are different flavors. But they're also the names of them are Double of a Lime and Son of a Basil. And
So cute.
yeah, I really like it. I cannot take credit for it. It was our the studio that came up with the design, which was a really also super fun process of discovery. They came up with the names, but it really plays into the whole brand name of Damn Right Cocktails because it's very kind of cheeky, but provocative in a way and super in your face. And that's exactly what the brand is. It's super honest and just kind of bold and tough. And that's really what we wanted to emulate for the products.
So how did you come up with the name Damn Right Cocktails? Because that's also a fantastic name. So
Yeah.
good.
Well, again, we wanted something that was really kind of bold and tough because our brand is, I call it the alternative like tequila brand because typically when you see tequila brands, it's either the ranch Western influenced vibe
It's true.
or the beach babe and surfer, that kind of vibe, which is great, but it's been done before. And I was so sick of that. I live in New York City and I wanted a very urban, kind of tough, bold brand that a modern woman can relate to because I don't relate to the Western or the beach babe. I relate to the, like the brick, like your background and the
Right.
cityscapes and like that's exactly what the brand is. So Damn Right was just kind of came about in a brainstorming session and it was just very provocative and super honest. And that's exactly what I want, what I think of as the millennial woman who is myself. So definitely just an inspiration of all the amazing women in my life as well.
So how have you been able to get the word out about the product? Like, what are you doing for marketing?
Yeah, so a lot of the marketing that I'm doing is very grassroots level. It's like a very localized industry. So you do start buzz by basically just walking around in the market and honestly doing a lot of in-store tastings and starting to kind of get people to know the brand that way because there's a lot of competition. So putting yourself out there is the way to do it is literally putting yourself out there. And so that's a lot of what we've been doing is in-store tastings and just talking about it, local events like I did when we launched in New York City, I did a bar event and really just connecting with the consumer as much as possible and again, we're like in various zip codes across the country, but it's super like concentrated. So if we do ads, it's in those zip codes where the product is sold. But definitely just grassroots kind of marketing. And my budget is not big. So those are the cheapest options, right? Is just word of
Right.
mouth. And I've been grateful that it's been, somewhat successful in that way.
So actually starting a business costs money. So talk
Yeah.
about like how you've been able to finance the business, if you have investors, that type of thing.
Yes. So I do have investors, which have mostly been family and friends, which I'm so grateful for. And that is honestly, without that, I wouldn't have been able to fund the business. One thing that is so, that I didn't know going into this industry is that it is super capital intensive. I mean, I think any consumer product is super capital intensive because it's like the marketing, the branding, and then, the sales are only 30% margin or whatever they are. So, in order to compete with the big guys, it's like you have to compete financially as well. So, that's been the biggest struggle in the past year. I've been mainly bootstrapping, funding it based off of the sales and like my own capital and then investors here and there. But in terms of like VC funding, I have not received any. And I think that's partly due to the market, but also partly due to just the competitiveness of the alcohol industry. And then maybe there is that element of me being a female owner because, it's honestly, that's the hardest thing about being a female owner is gaining credibility and having people believe in you. So the funding piece is probably the hardest part of it all because it is stressful and you have to make sure that you know, you have cash flow to support the business. And just in case something random happens tomorrow, you don't know. I could get a call from the warehouse and they'd be like, "Oh, 3 of your pallets were destroyed." I don't know. Like that could happen.
It
So
happens. Yes, yes.
yeah, the funding piece, like it just a roundabout answer of saying is really hard. It's really, really hard.
So what did you do? So have you created a pitch deck? Like,
Yeah. And
walk
here,
us through like how you were able to like kind of
yes.
get in front of these people.
Yes, and it's been an essential creating the pitch deck was like one of the first things that I did because knew I needed to raise capital. And there are so many resources out there to help you design the pitch deck or also design it yourself and know what to put in it. Every investor wants something different. So I've definitely changed it 500 times and I'm constantly changing it, especially because of like my metrics and my sales number change all the time. But started with the pitch deck and also and just kind of practice, practice, practice. I probably pitched my product 500 times
Yeah.
to people. And again, it's different every time and people want different things. But I think the best advice is just to know your market and know exactly what the end goal is because that's what investors care about. They want to know, firstly, like, how are they going to get a return? And then, secondly, like, they want to know that they can believe in you and that you're confident in it as well. So yeah, it is very much an essential part of it, but it's been just designing the deck, pitching and practicing and getting as much advice as possible from those who have done it before.
Right, and I have to imagine, like, you pitching 500 times, you've learned a lot along the way, and
Oh,
so,
yeah,
like, you've had to, like the tweaks you've made probably have been really good because 'cause you'll get some feedback from someone that can kind of inform how you move forward.
absolutely. I feel like it's never done. My deck is never done. There's always something. And that's fine, but you have to understand your audience and know, okay, what do they want? And I've learned that over time, obviously the hard way because it's just been through practice. But yeah, I've just learned so much and that's the best part about the experience, right?
No, for sure. Let's talk about fear. Like, you've been described as, fearless. We've read
Oh,
this in the articles about you,
oh,
and I'm
thank
wondering
you.
how you actually look how you look at fear. Like, I tend to think that, it's gonna be present sometimes because I think the things that we do are scary, especially when you have never done them before, and you kinda just have to keep moving through it, so kind
Right.
of wondering what you think about.
Yeah. I think I totally relate to that. My fearlessness was driven from my anxiety, basically, because I didn't, you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. You don't know what's going to happen a year from now. And I think that factor kind of encouraged me to do, especially when COVID happened, we're all in this crazy mindset of what's going to happen. I think that kind of made me realize like, I need to just do this because otherwise I'm gonna regret it, and I have I'm grateful enough to have, like, a family that supports me and stuff, so there's all these other factors, but my fearlessness was definitely driven by me just wanting to kind of not know the future, right? And that's obviously my mind works in a different I mean, it made sense to me,
Yeah,
but
and
yeah,
that's all
and
that's important.
yeah, it makes sense to me. And yeah, I definitely noticed myself being a little bit fearful when I make decisions now because I know obviously I've been doing this for a few years now and I know the consequences. And then I have to continue to remind myself like it's okay, you can make that decision, you can do that thing because you know that it's going to end up being okay and you're selling cocktails. So you're not saving the world, right? And I always remind myself that, I'm not a doctor. And so I can't take myself too seriously sometimes. But definitely it's a practice that I work on all the time.
So tell me about how you take care of yourself. I think as entrepreneurs, we tend to be thinking about our businesses
Oh
24/7.
yeah.
And I'm wondering, like, what do you do to kind of ensure that you are good to go and you're ready for the day?
Yeah, well, when my mornings are my time of the day for me, and
Mm,
I do my morning routine, work out, get a good breakfast, and go on a walk if it's nice out. But I think wholly, I've always been in therapy, and that's the best outlet for me, and I'm grateful enough to be able to afford that. But I also think the biggest thing that we don't talk about as entrepreneurs, or just like in America in general, is burnout. And
yeah,
I experienced and have still experience burnout so often because there's always something to be doing.
yeah,
And so for me, taking care of myself and recognizing, which obviously hasn't I haven't been able to recognize it ahead of time in the past, but kind of feeling in my body, oh, I'm about to like burn out, and taking a day off. Because that's
yeah.
also the bright side of being an entrepreneur, is that you are on your own schedule. So because people say, "Oh, I'm so jealous that you get your own schedule." I'm like, "No, that's the bad part of it."
I
Because
know.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Go. I was thinking like I for the longest time I was so like had a rigid schedule with entrepreneurship, and now I'm like, oh, I can take this day off. I can go and do this thing because it doesn't really matter because the work is still going to be there anyway.
Right,
So
right.
but it's taken me like 8 years to realize.
See, exactly. I'm still trying to work through it because we're taught in the US that it's like Monday through Friday, grind, grind, grind. And then the weekends kind of let loose. But like, why can't, I work 3 hours on a Sunday, 5 hours, here and there. And so that's the practice that I'm trying
Yeah,
to preach. Because as long as you get your work done, you're gonna get it done. But that's the
exactly.
hard part about being an entrepreneur, is that there's always just so much work, and it's on you. You have no other person to help you, right?
Right. It's true. It's true.
Yeah.
So at Hudson Kitchen, we have what we call a money bell that we ring when people
Cool.
take on new retail partners or like get their paycheck or whatever is going on in the facility. And I'm wondering what you're celebrating.
There's so much to be excited about because it's margarita season, so I'm, like, selling a lot. But I think the biggest thing is that, we talked about fundraising, and I just launched a crowdfunding campaign, and I've been going back and forth about whether or not I wanted to launch it because of, you hear people say, "Don't do this, don't do that," but I ended up doing it, and I'm so happy that I did because I've already raised 8K on it, and so
Amazing.
every little bit counts. Like, this platform is great, and for all the entrepreneurs that are listening to this, do crowdfunding because it is such a great way to get your friends and customers and family involved, because it's you can invest as little as $99. And then that way people feel like they're involved in your company, and you have automatic customers, and you get to raise capital in an easy way. Or not that it's easy, but like an easier way. So
Yeah,
I'm proud of myself for doing that. And I think that this capital that I raise will be able to like really help me kind of fund the market in terms of like in-store tastings and just extra things that I want to get to do. So I'm excited for that.
that's a great congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, Gabby, tell us where we can find you and find out all about Damn Right Cocktails and also where we can support you on your crowdfunding journey.
Yes. So damnrightcocktails.com. Check out the website. We ship in 33 states, so we
Oh,
sell
great.
online. Yeah, and I'm really excited about building that. So check it out. And if you use code DAMFREE at checkout, DAMNFREE, you get free shipping. And then on Instagram at damnrightcocktails, I'm on LinkedIn. And if you want to just say, hey, hello at damnrightcocktails.com. And then my crowdfunding campaign is on netcapital.com, but it's all
Awesome.
on my website.
That's great. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
The Food Means Business podcast was produced by Hudson Kitchen. It is recorded at the studio at Kearney Point and mixed and edited by Wild Home Podcasting. Our theme song is by Damian DeSandes, and I'm your host, Janaba Johnson Jones. Follow Hudson Kitchen on Instagram at The Hudson Kitchen. And to get food business bites right in your inbox, sign up for our newsletter at thehudsonkitchen.com/newsletter. Listen, follow, and leave a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get podcasts. Until next time.